Thank you for watching this first episode of Show of Force on the Jewish News Channel. This is a program that will give the Australian Jewish community a voice and a fair go in the debates and issues unfolding. We have wide support for this program from across the community. Unlike many in legacy and social media, we'll forensically, albeit unapologetically, make Israel's case, which I'm sure you'll agree is something we don't see and hear very often in Australia or anywhere for that matter. A little about me. I'm a proud Jewish Australian broadcaster and human rights lawyer with a background in investigative journalism, podcasting, documentary filmmaking, and I'm a lifelong student of the Middle East. When I'm not here, I host and produce the podcast Brave Journeys with Tammy Faraday, which recently launched its 6th season. It's one of the most listened to mental health podcasts across the globe. This program, Show of Force, always welcomes your comments and feedback on what we do and what our guests have to say. So please always feel you can be in touch. We would love to hear from you. What really is the truth about what is going on with the International Criminal Court and Israel? And why has it been so hard to get to the bottom of it? Why has most of the Australian media chosen to dwell just on the headlines and not on the facts? We thought to get things underway, we'd talk to former Ambassador to Israel, Senator Dave Sharma, who joins us from Israel today.
It feels exactly like it's a publicity stunt. I would point out the circumstances in which this happened suggest it was a stunt. I mean, the ICC prosecutor and his team were in fact due to visit Israel next week. Preparations were underway for that visit. Israel has been cooperating with this investigation because they expected that he would be charging Hamas. And when the prosecutor last visited here, which is in November or December last year to Israel, he made a point of saying that Israel has a robust and independent judiciary and the ability to hold any violations of international humanitarian law, ability to hold those to account in its own court system. What happened was he, without notifying Israel, he cancelled that visit and then immediately went onto the press and on CNN to sort of announce with great fanfare that he was putting or attempting to put Prime Minister Netanyahu in the dock. The whole thing reeks of a publicity, self-aggrandizement type stunt to sort of draw attention and profile to the court and the prosecutor.
I think these charges are exactly as President Biden called them. They're outrageous. They're beyond outrageous. This is a rogue prosecutor that has put false charges and created false symmetries that are both dangerous and false. And the first false symmetry is he equates the democratically elected leaders of Israel with the terrorist tyrants of Hamas. That's like saying that, well, I'm issuing, arrest warrants for FDR and Churchill, but also for Hitler. Or I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, George W. Bush, but also for bin Laden. That's absurd.
People who have an interest in delegitimizing the state of Israel have jumped on to sort of say, well, look, the ICC prosecutor considers the leaders of Israel to be the same as the leaders of Hamas, so there's no good guys and bad guys here, or Israel is as bad as the terrorist group. And I think the ICC has allowed itself to be exploited and used as a tool of, what people call lawfare.
We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas.
US President Joe Biden says seeking the arrest warrants of Israeli leaders is outrageous. Do you agree?
Well, I don't comment on court processes in Australia, let alone court processes globally, of which Australia is not a party.
Do you agree with Joe Biden's comments? And is it
I just answered the same question.
This should be of good concern to us, not just because we care about a fellow liberal democracy in Israel and a country with which we've got close ties, but if the court is going to be exploited and abused like this, and the court is going to go after high-profile targets, well, we could find that Australian prime ministers or defence ministers or senior serving ADF personnel find themselves in the court sites when the court think that's going to be a popular thing to do.
I think this is one of the most shameful acts of the Prime Minister. The Jewish community is completely and utterly bewildered, and I think Australians of good faith are bewildered as well that their Prime Minister doesn't have the ability or the wit to be able to stand up for what is in our country's best interests and to stand shoulder to shoulder with our allies, including the United States, to condemn an obvious anti-Semitic act by the ICC.
I'd say three things that really struck me from my week in Israel. Firstly, the nation is still deep in trauma, and it's impossible to overstate that. I mean, it was the largest single loss of civilian life in a single day since the Holocaust for the Jewish people. That is a big event. Over 1,200 people killed. There are still hostages being held, around 124 hostages that are being held. And of course, the family members of those hostages and the friends are incredibly anxious about their fate. And then nearly everyone in Israel has a son or a daughter or an uncle or a nephew who has been called up into military service and is putting their life on the line every day. I mean, Israeli soldiers continue to be killed every day in this war. There were 3 killed just yesterday. So there's a great sense of national trauma. The nation is still on the war footing. But with that, I think there is also a very strong sense of resolve and determination, which is shared across the political spectrum here, that Hamas must be defeated, because the idea that Israel could ever possibly hope to live in security alongside Gaza when Hamas is in control has been completely obliterated by the 7th of October attack. So I think whatever it takes and however long it takes, and almost regardless of whatever international opinion might be, Israel is determined to conclude this military campaign and finish the job with Hamas. It does feel like a stunt.